Hi, everyone. Very excited to be here. At American Express, we're very focused on how do we modernize service and serve that digital modern consumer. I think delivery is such an exciting space. There's been so much transformation going on. We have a very exciting set of panelists for you guys today representing a variety of different perspectives in the industry. So we're very happy to bring them to you today. So I'll kick off by asking each of you guys to introduce yourselves and maybe tell us how you got into the delivery space to begin with.
Sure. So I'm Jason Droege. I'm head of Uber Everything at Uber. And so what does that mean? It means that I'm in charge of all of the product delivery businesses that Uber ventures into, as well as sort of new business experimentation for the company. Been with Uber about 2.5 years and came upon food delivery when we were looking at what else can Uber do outside of people transport that can leverage a lot of the things that Uber's great at, like last mile logistics and low cost transport and connecting people with their cities. And so we saw food, and not only is food a lot of fun to build a business in, it actually checks a lot of the boxes for what Uber's about. So that's how we got here.
Great.
My name is Charles Blolis. I am the founder and CEO of Souvla, a fine casual Greek restaurant and wine bar with 2 locations in San Francisco and Hayes Valley and Nopa neighborhoods, and a third on the way in the Mission District. I just want to say that it is a huge honor to be here, and thank you to TechTable and all of the partners. I was really fortunate to attend last year's conference, and I just want to say that it's actually coming as a bit of a surprise, not only that I'm here on stage, but here talking about delivery, largely because a year ago, there really wasn't much to be said for delivery, at least in my market, being one of a few West Coast people here. San Francisco hasn't had the history of delivery that New York City has, for example. So it's been a really exciting and interesting time in that space. So thank you for having me.
Great.
My name is Wiley Sorelli. I'm the CEO and founder of Good Uncle, which I'll explain in a minute. But how I got into the delivery business is I dropped out of NYU 17 years ago and joined the founding executive team of Seamless Web prior to it launching, where I ran all sales and marketing, expanded us into all the different markets. We were acquired by Airmark, a unique company to acquire us. I was there for 10 years in the executive team and left and started another company called Single Platform, which is a marketing platform for small businesses, and decided to take some time off and work at First Round Capital and invested in some early stage technology companies, and then decided to jump back into food startups. And I think with this unique perspective of being involved with online food ordering for now 17 years, I think that you can zoom out and you say, so many companies, I guess technology is changing the way that we eat and the way we have access to great food in big cities, but it's not in the thousands of other cities across the United States and across the world. So what Good Uncle is doing is we have partnered with 10 iconic brands here in New York, from Joe's Pizza to Essa Bagel to Ample Hills, and also working with Sweet Green and Tom Colicchio to license 1 or 2 of the best items from each restaurant and launch delivery-only concepts in secondary markets. Our first market is Syracuse University. We're launching on Thursday, so I'm going back up there tomorrow morning. And yeah, we're launching soon, and so right now everything's going great. Right on target.
Well, great. Thank you to all of you for joining us today. I wanted to start with you, Wiley, since you've been working in this space for such a long time. Can you share with everyone, where do you think we are in sort of the life cycle of the delivery space? And you've probably seen a few waves of technological change or consumer trends that have impacted how that space has evolved. I wondered if you could start us off by that journey that you've seen over the last 17 years.
Yeah, so I guess when we started off with Seamless, it was online food ordering for banks and law firms. No one had high-speed internet access at home. All of a sudden that changed, and that was the emergence of our consumer site. At the time when we launched Seamless, you had restaurants that were delivering 2-3 blocks, which meant it made for a pretty effective delivery model because they were going into a very short area. But then Seamless all of a sudden opened them up to, now you can deliver almost anywhere. And they sort of had to expand their delivery zone because everyone else was coming in, because now when you log into Seamless, you see 3,000 restaurants that deliver to you. The challenge with that is that Now that this has changed, you have restaurants that are delivering all over here and over there and over here, and it's not a very cost-effective model anymore. And so there are very few restaurants that I feel like that really make money operating delivery online, and that's a challenge. I feel like we're at this tipping point now where hopefully a company will. There will be a company that will step in, but I'm guessing it'll probably be like an Uber or an Amazon that will step in and lower that cost of delivery to give those margins back to restaurants. Because right now the cost of delivery is like $5 per meal that they have, and it's just not sustainable. So it's a really interesting time when you see Amazon and Uber sort of stepping into the space, and you have these restaurants that aren't making money off of deliveries. I think we see a pathway to delivery-only restaurants, and that's sort of why we've started Good Uncle. So
Interesting. Maybe I'll open it up to the rest of you guys. So as you look at the landscape today, what do you think some of the biggest opportunities are in the delivery space? And I'm sure there are different pockets, whether you're talking about partnering with some of these larger logistics companies like an Uber versus something at the more local level.
You're the one that's seeing the globe right now.
Okay, got it. So I think from so what he's referring to is we launched Tokyo today. We're going to launch Amsterdam, Dubai, and it's escaping me, Johannesburg tomorrow. So that's what Charles was referring to. So it's been kind of a crazy ride for us. So what we're seeing and why we're so excited about it is, by the way, I think that's public. Anyway, if not, time zones will be fine. I think what's most astonishing to us, and the reason why we're so interested in it, so just take the economic piece of it, right? So you have, global takeaway, which is I think like $100 billion-ish business, which that's a big business, but compared to the overall food space, it's actually not that big. So, and then you look at the amount of that's been digitized, and that's an even smaller percentage. I think it's 5 to 10% in the US, and probably comparable globally. So we're at the beginning of this trend where people are wanting more and more to engage a restaurant to make their food rather than making it themselves, which was referenced before with people spending more money on restaurants than they do at groceries in the US, which is crazy, but amazing. So that's one trend. Trend number two is that takeaway is becoming bigger, and then people like Uber are helping consumers get low-cost access to the best food in their city. And we're investing very heavily in that. And the reason why we're investing so heavily in that is to Wiley's point, which is you have to get the price point to a right place so it goes mass market, and there is a tipping point there. And so you need the efficiency of I'm obviously biased, but one of the advantages of Uber is that you need the efficiency of a network that has so many cars already on the road to get into those cost points. So that's what I'm excited about is everyone has smartphones now, consumers, drivers. You can put a tablet in a restaurant. These are all very low cost, if not already a sunk cost, because we use them in our personal lives. And the amount of density of drivers that are out there, meaning the number of drivers in a certain area, is to a point where you can get into a price point that makes sense. So I think that's what I'm most excited about.
And Charles, how about you as a local operator in San Francisco? What type of opportunities do you see, and what has that meant for your business?
Sure. Yeah, I come at it from a totally different perspective, and just for some basic framework, because obviously I'm speaking to a room mostly full of New Yorkers here that probably maybe haven't heard of Suvla. Our restaurants are very small. Our original location, just to paint a picture, is about 1,000 square feet. All in, it's got a 350 square foot dining room, 42 seats. But we have a very simple streamlined menu, and between the combination of in-store dining, in-store to-go, online ordering, and delivery, we do every day between 600 and 1,000 covers a day. And so much of that's not just to whatever, that's because of the technology that we use. That yes, to Jason's point, I mean, people have smartphones. They can order from their phone. They can order from a computer. And now that we've begun to build a brand, there is that increased demand for people that where time is money. They want to skip the line. They want it. They want the convenience of the product that they've gotten to know and love brought to them. But I think first and foremost, and as we look at the intersection of tech and hospitality, I come from the fine dining background, so this Suvla is a little bit of a departure for me. And when I reference fine casual, we take a lot of the service standards and touch points of a fine dining restaurant and combine them with a lot of the efficiencies and economics of a fast casual concept. And delivery was never part of our equation when we set out to do this. And when we've started to work, and we work with a number of tech, and we call them partners, that we see this, we see delivery and our delivery provider, and we use Caviar, as a true partnership. And in a variety of ways, whether it's the integration with our operation, but really first and foremost, a lot of it comes down to trust. You know, we have a tremendous amount of control in the restaurant of our product and of that guest experience, but once it leaves our door, we lose control. You know, and because we have, you know, such a curated menu that has this following, we want to make sure that experience of you know, eating souvla is the same whether you're grabbing a bag to go or whether someone is delivering it to your door. And we take it to the point where we treat all of our couriers as guests with the same level of hospitality as we would anyone else. And we also kind of go as far as bringing in a lot of these tech partners. We're fortunate to be, I mean, the Uber office is down the street from us, so we're very fortunate to have Uber and Square and Caviar very nearby. But we actually invite a lot of these employees in, and they actually work for us for a shift. They put on the apron so they can, so when we deliver feedback, they have that context.
Great. I want to pick on this theme a little bit because I think it pops up with each of these folks and hopefully a lot of people in the audience as well. But this idea of how do you maintain that level of hospitality as you start to have to partner with other companies and not everything is directly in your control. How do you think about maintaining that service level and quality? So Charles, you just mentioned an example of, I would call it almost like an empathy exchange where you work with some of the providers, let them see what it's like to be in your restaurants so that they have some perspective as they think about how to work with you and provide solutions that meet your needs. Are there any other kind of practices or things that are top of mind for each of you as you think about how you maintain hospitality at every step of the journey?
I mean, we haven't really launched yet, so I think we're doing a really good job at it. But I think you can look at companies like Domino's that have done a really good job with the order tracking. I think, you know, for us, we are leveraging mobile technology as much as we possibly can, so that when our delivery truck leaves the kitchen, it's notifying the people that the delivery is 3 blocks away, and then when it's like, or 5 minutes away, and then when it's 3 blocks away, an automated phone call calls the person, says that it's going to be downstairs in a couple of minutes. Getting feedback loops from people. You know, on the food and how good it is. Like, there's a lot that you can do that you can't do in a restaurant to get that immediate feedback. But to be honest, I'm probably not the best person to answer that question. I think this guy is.
No, I mean, I think so much of it is, again, and I referenced the whole notion of a partnership, and with that comes, you mentioned empathy, but also communication and feedback. Mm-hmm. This is a landscape that is constantly evolving. It is a product, or really a technology that is constantly evolving. And being able to have that true conversation and being able to say, hey, listen, this is a pain point and here's why. And I mentioned bringing people in to work in the restaurant because we happen to be very, very, ask anyone at Square or Caviar, we happen to be very, very vocal with delivering feedback, both positive and negative. And sometimes that doesn't come across the right way in an email or just trying to explain something until you actually bring someone in and have them experience it. You know, and Gokul was up here earlier talking, and he, you know, was obviously such a huge part of Register, and that has obviously been an evolution. You know, as that product you know, continues to develop and evolve and get better and better and better. But in its early days, you know. We had the head of product come in and work the register because there were a couple of points of friction in there that we couldn't really articulate, and that once she was there, you know, at 12 o'clock on a Friday, lunch rush, line out the door, and there was this little hiccup. It's like, and she's like, I'm sweating bullets, you know, and it's like,
becomes real.
Yeah, it's like this is what we've been talking about. And it's like, oh, okay, and then fixed, you know. It's like so that's coming from the operator standpoint, and working now with a number of tech companies, I think it's really important to examine that relationship on an individual level.
Jason, how about you from your perspective? You work with a lot of different restaurants and partners. How do you think about preserving that element of hospitality?
Yeah, sure. So I think that if you look at how we've launched Uber Eats, like there's different models for delivery out there, especially as it pertains to hospitality. One model is the restaurant doesn't even know that they're on a delivery network, and their menu just shows up, and then a courier walks in and swipes a credit card and then takes your food somewhere. The problem with that is that you're not doing anything in partnership with the restaurant. And if you're not doing anything in partnership with the restaurant, then it's not that great of a business, one. Two, you can't provide all of this nuanced interaction with the customer that you can if you do deeply partner with the restaurant and invest in technology. So all of the deals that we have, we have contracts, we have relationships with all the restaurants that are on Uber Eats. And one of the reasons is just this, which is, if there's a line out the door and I'm ordering delivery, like the app should be smart enough to tell me that there is something going on in the restaurant, so that like I at least understand that it's not the system screwing up, that it's not the restaurant screwing up. It's like it's busy. On the restaurant side of things, one thing we want to do is actually provide that the other direction too, which is, who's the identity of the customer? What have they been promised? So that, the restaurant owner knows and can make like real-time decisions about servicing, what is seemingly an impersonal tablet versus someone standing there. We're not there yet, but we're investing heavily in that because I believe it's like super important. If you look at what the future looks like, the future does not look like, here's a menu of stuff with a price next to it. I hit a button and there's no pictures, there's no nothing, and then it just kind of comes to me when it comes to me. That doesn't feel like the future. Like what feels like the future is when your digital experience is trying to mimic, your real world experience as much as possible. We're not going to get there next month, but I think like that's part of the vision of where we want to take this, so that we can preserve some of that like experience of dining, because there are trade-offs to doing delivery. Like you walk into a restaurant and it's like, the ambiance, the smells, the people, like that's something that can't be fully replicated. So there are trade-offs when you do delivery, but we're working towards, helping that out.
The very interesting sort of tangent off of that one wouldn't think would be a part of delivery. We were talking about data earlier. We actually use the data provided from delivery to determine where we open up our next location. And one of the things, and it was just kind of a happy accident because a lot of it was shared with us. And we get to see the map just like with Uber, like you can see the map of every place you've been. We were able to see over a period of time where our food was being delivered to. And one thing that really kind of shocked us is that the highest concentration of Suvla delivery was happening within 1 square mile of the restaurant, which is a testament to people's laziness. But what did we do with that? We opened up our second location exactly a mile away from the first.
Interesting. Wanted to move on and see if we could talk a little bit about regional differences, but also differences in, what does delivery mean and what are some of those opportunities in more dense locations like a New York City versus other places like Wiley. You just started, you're soft launching your business in Syracuse. If you guys have any thoughts on perspectives of how do you kind of tailor that model or change that model based on some of those regional or density variances?
Yeah, so I think we've approached this sort of like a game of Risk, and when you play Risk, a lot of people fight over like Europe, and it's really difficult to capture, and you're defending all these angles. And so for us, we say, well, we'll take North America and South America, and there's, I think, we have a tendency to say, let's build technology for people here in New York, but the bulk of food ordering, and there's thousands of cities that are really dense that are outside of New York and outside of San Francisco. So that's why we said, our play is going to be secondary markets. And secondary markets only work if there is a density of population. So we picked college markets because you have a viral market that's extremely mobile. You can't order off a desktop, it's only off our app. But also, everyone does everything together. And the map of College Town, USA is clumps of dorms, frat row, a couple apartment complexes. So the way that we look at this and say we're going to try to cut the cost of delivery down is when you're at this clump of dorms, you open it up at 7 o'clock, and it's at 6:45, and your next drop is going to be at 7 o'clock, and the drop here is at 7:15 and 7:30. So we're actually doing it off a scheduled drop, and you can do that in densely populated areas, which brings our cost of delivery from $5 down to like $1. So I think there's a lot of opportunities in these dense cities to create online food ordering applications, so long as you can bring that cost of delivery down.
So I can definitely jump in. So we've launched a lot of different types of markets, a lot of different types of environments. To some degree, whenever we launch in a city, the sort of brand and sort of flavor of the city, we want it to come through in the app. And so like one way that we look at different cities is we say, who are the people in the cities, and like what are the local favorites that they would want to see in their app that maybe they're not used to getting delivery from, because delivery is still predominantly pizza, Chinese food, Indian food, et cetera, despite the fact that we talk about enabling everybody. Like we're still at the beginning stages of that. And then and so that tends to like create the feeling or the brand or the vibe of the experience in a city as the restaurants that are in it. We also shoot a lot of photography, and sometimes the photography in the app will represent things from the city. If you open up the Uber Eats app, you'll see like the top 5 meals we photographed, and sometimes in Tampa or something like that, they might throw in something that's like particular to that city to try to create some local feel. From a logistics standpoint, I mean, what's kind of interesting is it's really around delivery distance. So you think a city like New York, I mean, I took an Uber here, so I know that it's definitely not true that shorter distances you can go faster. I mean, I could go 25 miles in Arizona for the time that it takes me to go 2 miles here. And so while on the surface it appears like, oh yeah, these dense cities are a lot different, and there are differences sometimes you have to use, but the truth is you can just go further faster because there's a lower density of people. So it's really about the time. We look at like the time from pickup of the food to the time of drop off to make sure quality is ensured, and that's how we determine what the delivery radius is. And in a place like New York, if we were to deliver via car, the delivery radius would have to be like 100 feet because that takes like 15 minutes. But we use bikes here, so like that can expand to like a mile. But in Arizona, it's literally like 14 miles because you can. That's 12 minutes, 14 minutes. So I think that's kind of how we look at it. Like on the surface, it can seem like there's a lot of differences. In truth, when you start looking at the data, the cities start to look the same.
I'm wondering along this line, so at Uber, you guys have access to so much data, you have that global scale. What are some of the other learnings that you've seen as you've been operating this platform?
Well, we've learned a lot. So if you look at where we started with Eats, for those of you who don't know the history, it started about 2 years ago, and it started with serving one meal. Very low selection. That's about as low as you can get without, and still offer a service. And on the vehicle slider, you would slide over, you slide from Pool to UberX, this, you slide over and it would say like, there's a sandwich in the car, right? And it'll be delivered in 4 minutes. And we sold out on day one. So we're like, well, shoot, if like speed is important to people, so we started building like more selection while maintaining speed. And what we found over time is selection is obviously incredibly important. So is customization, et cetera. And so now we're kind of going at it from both angles, which is we believe that the future doesn't look like 45-minute delivery, an hour delivery. The future looks like 15-minute delivery of anything you want. At least that's our belief. And then it's our responsibility to build the logistics, to build autonomous vehicles and these kinds of things to get that cost down and speed up while still maintaining selection. And so I think the real learning for us from a company that said, hit a button, get a car, and you don't really care if it's a Prius or a Corolla or whatever, because you just want to ride, which is a relative commodity, to no, people actually do want particular brands, particular food from that brand, made a particular way. That was a pretty big adjustment for the company. And then also building infrastructure so that we can provide the proper service to restaurant owners. Because businesses need very high uptime. They need someone to call if there's something wrong because there's money on the line. And so these real-time aspects, the relationship aspects, and then just this sort of merchandising of selection is something that the company's had to become an expert at over the past couple of years. I'd say those are the big things.
Great.
Just one comment on that. It's incredible to think about, when you log into normal sites now and it's like a 45 to 50 minute delivery time, it's a long time. And I know it's seamless. So many people made choices based off of that delivery time. And now all of a sudden you add in the fact that they can maybe get that delivery time down to 15 minutes, or everything's gonna be down to 15 minutes. Like, what does that do to restaurants, right? It's incredible. That's why we think that there'll probably be a few different restaurant models for delivery only. There'll be like the Maple model. So I think this puts the power back in the kitchen, back in the chef, enables restaurants to not have a front of house cost, and instead invest in creating great food with a great staff. So you'll have one delivery model, which is like a Maple. So come up with your own recipes and go delivery only and deliver it. I think the other model is our model. We can partner with these top brands, Joe's and these other great brands, and deliver just those select items. And then I think the third model is more of like a national chain franchise model. So you have like the burger from Shake Shack, the sandwich from Chick-fil-A, you name it, the pizza from Domino's, or maybe some better place. But I think that like with Uber or whoever it is that steps in to do that, it changes the complete landscape of what a restaurant has to do, because now they don't need to have a front of house operation that for the most part people don't really go in and eat at a lot of these Chinese restaurants anyways. They're there for delivery, and now they can just focus on maximizing their margin. It's fascinating time to be involved.
Yeah, one of the things, and I know we're short on time, but one of the things that I really like is the idea that the best of a city should win. Right? It shouldn't be the thing, the place that just happens to be walking distance and they're competing on space.
Yeah.
Like if we do our job, whoever has the best whatever in a city, we should be able to help that owner reach those customers. And I think that's really powerful because it creates almost like a meritocracy around quality.
Yeah, it's no longer location.
Yeah,
right? It's
exactly.
like great food.
Yeah, exactly.
I would just jump in and say that as someone who does both, I think that it is possible to find the balance between the two. And we have spent a tremendous amount of time over the past couple of years really thinking about what the thoughtful way to integrate delivery is to the operation. And now we spend a considerable amount of time when we go and design a new restaurant to make sure that we have the correct infrastructure, whether that's space or anything else, so that we can do delivery on top of providing an incredible in-house dining experience, or just have the convenience of being able to walk in, grab a bag that you've already paid for, and take off. I think I definitely see the value in like the delivery only like space, just building out a kitchen that just does delivery. But I do think that it is possible to find that balance.
Yeah, absolutely. There's probably lots of room for different models to prevail. Well, thank you, everyone. I want to open it up to the audience for a few questions. We have a few minutes left. Over here.
Hey, Jason. A question. Hey, Jason. This is Dave Ambrose. How do you guys think about restaurant acquisition? Because it seems like there's driver acquisition on the core Uber business, and then there's restaurant acquisition on Uber Eats. And it seems like every time I open up the Uber Eats app, wherever I travel, you always have amazing restaurants. So if you can kind of talk through that process, or kind of what you've learned in the last 2 years, that'd be really interesting.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you. I mean, that's been the goal. So at Uber, we talk about how we celebrate cities, right? So on the ride side of things, we celebrate cities by connecting people to the merchants, to the parks, to whatever, as frictionless as possible. And then with Uber Eats, we kind of look at it the same way, which is, when I said, I firmly believe the best should win, often the best in a city, and it's not that chains don't do a great job, but there's what can make a city is often the flavors in the city. And so when you say it's, these amazing restaurants in there, it's probably because those restaurants have something about them that you haven't seen somewhere else, or that represent the culture or flavors of that city. And those aren't always independent restaurants, but a lot of times they are. And so we do focus on building relationships with those owner operators. And so that's, I think, why you see what you see. We're starting to add some chains, but we're definitely starting with whatever makes a city local, and that's really important to us.
Great. How about over here?
Hi. This is a question about 15-minute delivery windows. So to what extent are you willing to hit that window by trying to forecast ahead of time what is going to be ordered so that you can have it ready within 15 minutes? And to what extent are you going to say, I'm not going to offer this to this customer because it's too far away and they can't get it ready fast enough? Like how to balance waste and delivery time.
Right. I feel like I'm in a product meeting at work right now. Yeah, I mean, look, like the 15 minutes is, that's like my dream. Like you have to make sure that, you have to take a principled approach to all these things, right? So when I opened the app here in New York, when I was at the office and I ordered from Numpang, like we have like a 25-minute guarantee, right? And there's only some restaurants that are there because historically we have data that shows these restaurants prepare fast. We, at this time of day we can deliver within a certain window, and we add up all the numbers and we score it and we say like 25 minutes. There's a very high likelihood, and if we don't deliver to you in 25 minutes, you get your delivery fee back. And I got it actually in 24 minutes, so I almost got my free. So I think as you start moving down to like 15 minutes, prediction on what people will want will become really important. And that's when the game gets really interesting or weird. Hard to know which, right? Because waste is a thing. You don't want to frustrate restaurant owners and say like, make 3 of these, and then it's just like sitting there. And it's not just a number in a spreadsheet. It's like someone actually put some effort into making that food, and now it's waste. I think just the order prep, get the logistics right. If we work with certain restaurant partners on certain items, we can potentially get that down. But on the instant side of things, we have a product you can deliver in 5 minutes where we actually forecast the entire lunch hour. And we actually got pretty good at that. But there is waste, which is super unfortunate. So I'm not specifically answering your question because it's like I would probably need a data scientist up here to really talk about where the line is. But we're cognizant of more of the factors than just the cost, right? Because there's like a huge, there's a supply chain impact of waste too.
I'll just quickly mention that we're also going to try to do a 5-minute delivery. I can make a lot of claims right now because we're not doing anything, but
It's going to be huge.
It's going to be 15 seconds tops. So what we're going to be doing is, and I'm not making this up, is because we're on a scheduled route, we're going to put extra things into this delivery van. So a number of extra pizzas, extra number of extra salads, wraps, whatever it may be, cold items, Ample Hills ice cream, so that they can order all the way up to 6:59 for a 7 o'clock drop, and then we'll just eliminate those items so that people can't order them from the next drop. I think that'll come later on towards the beginning of the first semester. But if we can do that, that could be really interesting, or it could just be like, people don't really care. But because we have these big trucks that are delivering stuff, we'll be able to pack it with a lot of additional items, so we shouldn't be running out.
Yeah, I think that intersection of like massive amounts of data to forecast these things that seem unforecastable, like that's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen in a year, 6 months, 5 years, but it's going to happen.
Great. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much.